This is the Big MJ Debate. I'm Pez Jacks,
And I'm Sean McLachlan.
and you'll be pleased to know that today you're not going to have to deal with too much of my prattling on because I have a little bit of a man flu. So, viewers rejoice. I will leave it, of course, to the lovely Sean McLachlan and our special guest co-host for today's episode, Steven Paul Whitsitt.
Hello. I'm so
It's
happy to be here.
It's great to have you here, and I think by this point it's fair to say that you're definitely a friend of the fan community versus just kind of somebody that worked with Michael. I think you've become a good friend to the community.
Oh, that's a lovely thing to think.
But is it true?
That remains to be seen, especially after this discussion today.
Oh, they'll let you know if they don't agree.
To be honest, at the end we can rank popularity. I still think that Shara and I are definitely on course for the bottom ranking. So we'll see how we go. But the reason we thought it would be great to have you on today is because we wanted to discuss the use of AI. Now, this is naturally a controversial topic, but also very topical. The use of AI is now prevalent in our lives
Yeah.
and in the mainstream, and it has now filtered through to the Michael Jackson community. And every day that goes by, we see more and more AI creations and AI editing and AI usage in what Michael has left behind. One of the areas that's become really noticeable is with photographs of Michael Jackson. We have seen endless AI recreations, additional shoots, and it's just become something that's now leaving a question mark over the whole process as to, is this ethical? Is this right? What are the implications? How does this impact Michael's legacy and what we understand from Michael in the future? And of course, it made sense for us to have one of Michael Jackson's photographers for that conversation who can talk firsthand about that experience. So, as we get into it, Shah, I think let's just kick off. What's your feeling on AI in the Michael Jackson sphere?
I feel that whether we like it or not, it's AI is going to become part of our daily life. It almost is. Um, when it comes to Michael, I I have mixed feelings on it. I don't encourage the use of it, but equally, I'm a hypocrite in saying that because I have listened to AI Michael Jackson sings such and such song. So I can't say I'm fully against it if I consume it. However, I think using AI to create images and things, images kind of takes a different turn for me because part of that feels violating to create an image of someone that never existed. People could use that in very sinister ways, and I feel uncomfortable with that. But I
Sure,
do think
just to
AI is daily life.
challenge you on that point.
Yeah,
If you say, for example, like you listen to to AI versions of Michael's singing,
yeah,
surely the risk of using Michael's voice to say and
absolutely.
speak on things that he never did is equally as much of a risk. I don't know.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. And this is why I would say that I'm a hypocrite when it comes to it because I can't consume it and then say I'm against it, but I am.
Yeah,
So it's I don't know when AI first kind of became I don't know, it seems like it's just transcended very quickly. Only a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, all this stuff kind of started first cropping up on YouTube and other websites. And it was almost kind of fun at the beginning. Whereas now, I've said this before on this channel, my worry is that 50 years from now, people won't know what Michael actually did and what was AI.
yeah.
And that's my concern.
Steve, obviously it's a very broad topic and does hit home personally in some aspects of your creative and professional career. So give us a kind of insight into your feeling on the use of AI in Michael Jackson's work.
Oh, I have no opinion on it whatsoever.
And thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time.
Um, well, it is very, very broad. First of all, in a general way about AI, I have really, really strong feelings that I want I want human beings to have work. I want and I want there to be and there want there to be a planet, and I want there to be clean water, and I want there to be certain things for everyone. And it seems like that the general model of AI is toward eliminating jobs for people and at the same time doing really, really destructive things to the environment. Knowing just based on what Michael's values were, I don't think that I don't think that he would have been woohoo, let's jump on board with that. So that's a starting point. As far as there's a and there are all these different things that we can these paths that we can follow down. I think that Michael's the images of Michael. Okay, I created a body of work of Michael. One of the things that's really difficult about that was that um, a lot of the work that I created went into the vaults of MJJ Productions, and they weren't particularly scrupulous about who all they shared original images, including original images that I shot. And so out there in the world, there are a lot of original slides and prints of things that I shot that got sent to fanzines and stuff like that and never got returned and got duplicated and stuff like that. So I'm already fighting a battle of something that's original that I shot that somebody might possess because they bought it off of eBay.
Yeah.
Um, that's that's toothpaste that can't get put back into the tube, unfortunately. Um, but when I see, I mean, just in my own work, I've seen times where I put up pictures on my website and I put them up with a watermark. And within a day or two, somebody will be like, "Oh, look at this image that I put up. Isn't it great how I removed the watermark?" And it's like, no, that's not great. The watermark is there for a reason. You don't have just because you can view something on the internet doesn't give you the right to possess it, doesn't give you the right to alter it. And so that's kind of and this is, you know, basically AI is just a tool to be able to do something like that a lot faster
Yeah.
and without putting a lot of thought into it. Just tell it, do this, remove this watermark. Um, and so that's taking something that, essentially that's stealing my work and utilizing it for another purpose. When it comes to creating something new from it, that's just sort of a whole different can of worms, as it were. What can happen is that, and I've thought about this. I've had a couple of fans approach me and say, "This image that you shot of Michael, um, I'd like to paint it." And to me, that's for the most part, the fact that somebody respects me enough to actually ask is a big deal. And so usually I'm going to be sure, that's fine. But what is, when is it a painting and when is it an AI rendering? And if an AI rendering looks exactly like a photograph, then it's kind of a very blurry line between the two, and I have really mixed feelings about that. I think that I start from being kind of really anti, and for a few reasons that I've already discussed, but it's like I don't know. I mean, if there are a couple of shoots that I really wanted to do with Michael that I never got to do. If I had a conversation with a fan about one of those and they say, "Oh, well, we're just going to take all of the images that you shot of Michael and put it into an AI engine and create the shoot that you always wanted to do," it's like, well, but it didn't actually happen. And there's something about the actual reality of what did happen and the limitations of that.
Yeah.
Every creative endeavor has a beginning and a middle and an end, and it's like at when Michael got tired, we were no longer going to be able to shoot, and so I can't be like, oh well, these are all the ones that we might have shot had he been a robot as well. But
Mm.
Well,
it
I
creates
think
the
I think
motivation.
that's a valid point, and kind of touching on what Charles said at the beginning, that there is an element of this that because it's new and it's exciting, and in a way there is an element of fun to it. For us right now, where we are, that is a new tool, it's a new idea, and it I think I described it the other way that the other day that it gives people who have an idea but not necessarily the skill to execute it the opportunity to execute it. So, for example, you can go on AI and you can code an entire app. You've never had to study app development or UX or UI or coding. You can create an app effectively through AI. There's a guy on YouTube that actually did it. A friend of mine put me onto that. It's very interesting. So we are in a position at the moment where this is kind of like it's a new toy. And we saw that happen with Twitter, where people were putting, presidents in bikinis and whatnot. So that idea at the moment, I understand why there
I
is.
don't really want to think of that visually right now. You just ruined the whole podcast for me by putting that image in my mind. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, while you sit with that, I think there's a yeah, it is very much at the here and now. Of course, everybody wants to try it out because suddenly everybody can do it by just tapping in what they desire. As you pointed out at the beginning, Charles, there's this risk that where does this sit in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years, and in 40 years? Because while we're creating something in today's society and we post it online and we can tag it AI and there's an importance of letting people know it's AI, as we know with social media, somebody saves an image, then they share it on their account, and somebody saves it and shares it on their account, and then on their account, and then on their account. And by which point, the origin, which mentioned it's AI, has been completely lost. And people say, here's a new image. And I'll be honest, I'm on social media sometimes and I see images of Michael and I think, I've never seen that before. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, wait, but is that AI? I don't know because it's got so good. And some people have got so good at it. I genuinely can't tell with some images if they are AI or legitimate. And I'm talking about existing shoots where they've
Yeah.
created alternative versions. Because I look at it and I'm like, is that one real? No,
Yeah.
that's got to be AI because I've not seen it. So I think there's so many layers to unpack that it's just
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. And it's actually becoming a skill that is going to be very valuable in the future. If a person can tell just by looking at it if something is AI or not, that is a skill that very, very few people have because it's so new. And the problem with AI, just like you, I have also been caught out and thought, I've never seen this picture before, or I've never seen this shoot before. And AI is only going to get more intelligent. It's only going to get better. So this is where it becomes really dangerous because, again, like you say, the origin becomes null and void when it's shared and then reshared and then reshared. How long before it ends up in a history book? How long before it ends, and then we never know where
yeah.
the original source was.
Exactly, and we know that the Michael Jackson estate is a good example, and we will come on to them because, of course, we wouldn't leave them out of this discussion. But we know that they have a history of, particularly with social media, of sharing images on his official account that aren't him when they
Yes.
thought they were. There's a great example from about 10 years ago. They posted a picture of a female impersonator sat in a tree, and they put a caption saying, Michael loved trees, blah, 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 blah. And all the fans were like, well, this isn't him. This is a Russian female impersonator. And they got egg on their face because they went on Google and they basically searched Michael Jackson sat in a tree. Oh, that'll do. And they posted it without verifying. So, if even the official bodies are making that mistake, you're absolutely right. It is going to end up in books and magazines,
Yeah.
and who knows where we're going to be in the next, well, we say in the next 10 years, but I think we're talking maybe the next 2 or 3 years
Well,
at this
AI
point.
is even more intelligent now than it was this time last year. And it's only going to get better and smarter and faster. And I don't even think the people who program this can even keep up with how quickly it's advancing.
Well, and I think it brings up a really important, and this might be going off on a tangent, but it brings up something that's important just as a discussion within the MJ fan community. And I don't want to be a gatekeeper. I don't want to be the king of the community or the emperor or anything like that. But I've had fans actually say to me when I reported somebody one time for using one of my images without my permission or without attribution or anything like that. I had a fan say to me, and this is as near as I can quote, Michael belongs to the world. You have no right to own copyright to an image you shot
No.
of him. And the thing is that what I would like the fan community to do is to have discussions amongst themselves and all of that. And it's like the bottom line, like with the AI stuff, is that I was watching a clip from Jurassic Park the other day, and it's with the great actor Jeff Goldblum, and he's talking to the scientist who had created the ability to bring back to life the dinosaurs. And he said you've spent so much time thinking, can we do this, and not enough time thinking, should we do this? And I think that it's just really, really important that it's like one of the things that I observing fans is that fans want to have everything about Michael. They want to possess everything about Michael. And I'm not going to make a judgment call on that one way or the other. That's for an individual person to decide and to come to that
You
conclusion.
you say that somebody sat in a room like this, but
But it's like but it's like do do I is it important to know what Michael had for breakfast on June 4th, 1973? Is having and it's like there's like this hierarchy that builds that it's like, oh, I know more about Michael than
Yes.
you do. I have more about Michael than you do. And that's the thing that drives the wanting to possess more and more and more. And it's like if you had everything that you could possibly want about that, that still doesn't bring Michael back and give you Michael that you could sit and have a conversation with, or bring you Michael that you can wait for him to drop a new record of. And so it's like one has to ask themselves, is that what is it inside of an individual that makes you want to possess something so much to say, okay, there's nothing that I can't have.
You make a fantastic point when you reference the not enough time on the or too much time on the can we and not enough time on the should we, because you're absolutely right, that brings up ethics in this
Mhm.
whole discussion. And that is where probably a lot of people, including myself because I've consumed it as well, have to stop and think, what is the future of this? Where
Mhm.
does it end?
Mhm.
yeah, I think just touching on the ethics, because you both raised a really good point about that. Steve, I said to you before we did this call, I said, in some regards with this conversation, I'm going to play devil's advocate because otherwise this is just going to be the big MJ agreement. We're all going to say the same thing. And so I want to be in a position where this may not necessarily be my point of view unless I express it, but ask questions that other people might come up with so that we can explore that. And again, you can say as much of or a little about this as you like. Um, Sort of touching on this point about ethics, help us understand or help some of the fans understand, right? Because there will be some fans that will say, well, hang on a minute, Steve. Michael paid you for those images. You've done your job. You've got your money from that photograph. Why should I pay you for it again and again and again when you've been paid to do that job? Surely now that you've done it and the photo's out there, I can use it as I like. For those fans that maybe are thinking in that mindset, why is that not correct?
Oh my gosh, there's so many different ways that I can answer that. But I
I thought
mean,
you were just going to
essentially,
smash the camera and walk off.
well, essentially, when the way that copyright works is that the person that creates the original thing, Pez, you've written original books,
Yeah.
and you have inside it's copyright, all rights reserved, you and your publisher, and the and what that means is that means that it becomes it goes from being something that you created using your brain to something that is a product that people can purchase. And if you go into the store and say, "Oh, I'd like that," and the author's been paid already for writing that book, I'm just going to take it. And it's like, no, you can't. It's not something that you get to just take. Where it really is problematic is that people want to take it and then they want to reproduce it again and again and again without respecting the original artist, without and it's like if you know if somebody and it's funny because within music you sort of have you have remixes, but most of the time remixes are something that's authorized by the artist and stuff like that. But when I shoot an image, as the person who presses the button of the camera, I am the person who owns the copyright. I created the image because it was my eye. And so that's sort of the way it works. The laws, and I know that the laws might be different in Europe and in the UK. The laws in the United States, I barely understand. They're complex and they're ever changing and all of that. But if I put something out on social media, rest assured that it is copyright and I own the copyright and nobody has the right to reproduce it.
So
So is that a good place to start?
yeah, I think so. So I just off the back of that and kind of coming back to the early point about when we were discussing AI, with that in mind, if you take an image, and this again, this is an open discussion. If you take an image, say one that you've shot or one that someone else has shot, and you put it into AI and you get Michael to do something completely different.
Mhm,
So let's say he's sitting there like this, and you get him to do this instead
mhm.
with AI. At what point could the argument be made by a fan who's done that with AI that, well, actually, this is now a new image? So how would you claim copy? Who claims the copyright on a new image that's been created?
Well, they don't have the right to do that because they're taking my image and utilizing it without my permission.
Right.
Just that's full
Mhm.
stop right there. Um, will they? Yes. Will I just have to if I could clone myself and have my clone spend all day every day chasing down all the different ways that my stuff has been nicked, um, then that clone would be very, very, very busy. Um, because it just happens all of the time. If I mean, I don't know. Do you ever see bootleg Michael records or merch or whatever? It's like if Michael didn't authorize that or didn't it wasn't okay with that, and it's something that changes his appearance somewhat, or there's some group of pictures where that were AI pictures and Michael's jawline was just completely off, and some people were just like, oh, he's beautiful, it's amazing, but it's like, but it's not, it's a caricature. It's a facsimile, and it's like I kind of prefer the authentic item.
Mhm.
And what I fear is I fear that we'll lose the authentic item because we'll be so overwhelmed with facsimiles that and people just kind of will shrug and be like, well, can't do anything about it. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And that's like the point that it will get to, and that I really fear.
Can I just ask you, as the creator of these images and the creator of your own work,
Mhm.
how do you feel personally when you have seen people take images and rearrange them or remix them, shall we say, with that being your original work? How do you feel personally when you see that happen?
I've been it varies.
Mhm.
A lot of it depends on my mood on that particular day,
Mhm.
but there have been times when I've just been completely enervated about it. Because it's just it's I think that I've been pretty generous with the community as far as not making a fuss if somebody nicks one of my images or whatever. But sometimes, especially when they remove my watermark,
Mhm.
and when they like, I had somebody that quote unquote photoshopped one of my pictures, and they felt like they made it better,
Mm.
and I couldn't even look at if it was better or worse, but because I was just so mad at the fact that they had just done it without even just the courtesy of, hey,
Yep.
is it okay if I do this? So sometimes it's just kind of like, ugh, and sometimes it's like I get genuinely really, really upset.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Do you think when we look at AI and the way it's used, and as we mentioned, it being used in Michael's original work, could it be argued that this is not just progression of what we've already been doing already? And what I mean by that is, for example, if you take a picture and you Photoshop that image, that's not exactly what you saw if you've taken blemishes out, if you've changed the lighting, if you've changed the background color, or whatever it might be in Photoshop. And the same with, if you look at Michael's music videos, they're being upscaled, is the term we use loosely, with AI, and we know the
yeah,
estate of doing that.
I looked at a couple of upscaled ones last night, and they're
I mean, they get progressively shitter, and that kind of a whole different
oh,
point.
do
But
tell. Go ahead and go down that path.
Oh.
Karen, give it up, they're crap. So could it be argued that, well, actually, what we used to do manually to change something can now just be done automatically?
Yes. And actually what I was thinking about is I was thinking about the recording process. And because I was just in a real state of the art recording studio in Mexico for working on this project, it comes to mind. But it's, when, and if you've ever heard Bragg Buxer talk about the process of creating one of Michael's songs, um, the vocal doubling and stuff like that, and just how they could do, this track upon this track upon this track upon that track, and it's like, well, that's not the same as the experience that I had of sitting alone in a room with Michael and just having him sing a cappella to me. It's a completely different thing. And so one could say that the technology that allows the amazing things that can be done in a recording studio, yeah, that's something to think about. And ultimately, I think it comes down to personal ethics. It's like, do you think that it's ethical to create something that wasn't there? I think that though it's a slippery slope, and that there are some things that are gray area, I worry. Ultimately, I just worry that there's going to be like a whole album of fake Michael Jackson songs, and it just is going to make me want to throw up.
Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense. And touching on the point Shell made at the beginning about things veering into a dangerous territory, I think we should definitely um, discuss the risk behind that, because as we've said, that for fans, creating something that may not have happened, or like Michael wearing a different shirt or pulling a different pose, can be exciting, and it could be like, wow, imagine if he had have done that. But there's also the risk that there are a lot of, while we're having enjoyment with discovering what could have been, there's also a lot of people that don't enjoy Michael
Mhm.
and like to make claims about him that aren't true. And we have a very it's almost like a slippery slope into, well, just because we're creating things and seeing it in a positive light, it doesn't mean that other people aren't going to be doing the same in a
Yeah.
negative way. Do you get what I'm trying to say with that?
Absolutely, and the problem is that it's so accessible to so many people, and there are very, very little laws surrounding the use of AI right now, and that is something that will probably change in years to come. But right now, it's a kind of free for all. Anyone can create next to anything with AI, upload it somewhere, and we've all seen how a story that's been made up or whatever has grown arms and legs, and everyone ends up believing it. How long before it's the same with images or the same with video? Like it is largely unregulated, and that's a
Yeah.
massive problem.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And I think where we are right now is that there is no regulation, but there's also no alternative. And this is something that hasn't been looked at because it's come so quickly. And as we know, particularly with like lawmaking and stuff, they take ages. Everything's got to have royal assent
Yeah,
over here and
yeah, yeah.
House of Commons, House of Lords, back to the House of Commons, chatting shit for hours, and then, oh, here we go, we passed the law 4 years too late. But I think there is this kind of concern that Steve, you said at the beginning as well about, I want everybody to have a job. And I agree with you. I think the problem we've got with AI is we haven't looked at, well, if that takes over things and a lot of things, what do people do instead? And that's kind of been a thought process with machinery for a long time because there'll be people that are now redundant when they were very skilled at hands-on because machinery has overtaken that. But because AI is moving so quickly and almost absorbing so many different job types and skill sets, it's kind of saying, right, well, that's fine, but what do those people do next? When we look at a good example I've used before is self-service checkouts. So that kind of changed the game for supermarkets. You could go in, you could serve yourself, and you could get out. When you think if you was to go back, predating you, Shah, in the like 90s and stuff, and you'd have maybe, 50 checkouts and there would be people scanning your stuff. Now the majority of supermarkets, particularly in the UK, are self-service. Those people were able to be redeployed to, stack shelves or work on the checkouts that are there or find other areas in the shop. So they were able to be redeployed. But equally, there would be people that lost their job. And did I think about the ramifications of that when I'm using self-service? The answer is no, I didn't.
No, yeah.
And now as a
Yeah,
creative,
I think about it. I think about it every single time, and part of it is, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, or maybe I am, but what I'm a social person, and I enjoy going in and meeting the person that's behind the checkout, and oh, those are nice earrings you're wearing, or oh, how are you doing today? And like a lot of times they'll have tattoos, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting ink, what does that mean? Or just something, because we are social animals. Our I believe with all of my heart that we are supposed to interact with one another, and especially with people that we don't know. I think that it's part of how communities are built, and all of that. And I don't mean to be so lofty in my ideals. And yeah, sometimes for pure convenience, I'll go and check out myself with the self checkout because the queue's too long or whatever. But it's like I try to start from a place of, I'm on team human. I want all humans to be able to get along with one another and to interact, and that means rubbing elbows with one another. If I'm only isolated in my little cubicle of life, and not having conversations like this, then it's just a pretty bleak existence, and I'm not really interested in that.
I
So,
think that comes from a creative DNA that you also have, though, because I've been
Yeah.
with you before where you will see a person or say, oh, that's really interesting. And then you'll stop and you'll be taking a picture of it. Or I think you've been at convention before. And then when you sent me through the photos, I was like, who is this lady sat on the stairs? You're like, oh, she looked really interesting. And I wanted to photograph her. So I know you kind of go around the world and see it in a different like for me, for example, if I go in a shop, I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm like, leave me alone. I want to get what I
That's
want
how
to
I
get.
feel.
I do not want to talk. Do I want a bag? If I need a bag, I'll ask. Like,
I loved I loved COVID when I didn't have to talk to anyone.
yeah, so,
no,
so
I
I think
so I guess that I'm just a special kind of weird.
I think
no, but
I
it's
actually think a huge part of it is being American. I think Americans are very much more social
yeah, I
and
agree.
enjoy conversation a lot more than anyone in Britain does. But I think I actually think it's lovely, and I wish I was more like that. to be honest, but
No, see, I don't think I do because I agree with you. Like American hospitality is kind of second to none, but I do come out sometimes feeling exhausted. Like if I sit in a restaurant and I've been approached like 8 times and this person is just grinning at me like the whole time, I'm like, especially if I'm dining alone, and I just think I just want to like I like to go into a restaurant, read if I'm on my own, read my book, eat my food, limited interaction as possible. And when someone is like popping up in front of you every 5 minutes, it's kind of. But yeah, I guess it's kind of like how you like to go around the world. It's probably why people think I'm an asshole because, because I'm sitting like leave me alone. But I do think that sort of bringing it back to AI and what we were discussing about AI, this idea of human interaction and feeling close to somebody. Steve, you said earlier about when it comes to fans wanting to own everything and be surrounded by him, and here it's not going to bring him back. And I agree with that sentiment. However, again, playing devil's advocate, if we know he's not coming back, how do you feel close to a person? If the idea of hearing an Ariana Grande song sung by Michael helps a younger fan feel connected to him, even if it's not his voice. How do we change that mindset to help them feel close when effectively we're getting nothing new from him anymore?
I don't know if I can answer that question directly, but what it made me think about was that, and I apologize because all of my questions or all of my answers seem to go to like a philosophical place. But the incontrovertible fact is that everything is temporary. On the 4th of January, I said goodbye to my mom. My mom passed away. And I had my last time of holding her hand. I had my last time of kissing her on the forehead in the hours before she passed. And now I can't do that anymore. And there's something profound and humbling about that. And the thing is that it's like the whatever closeness we felt, each of us for a completely different reason, whatever closeness we felt to Michael, we cannot recapture that. We cannot regain that. And so, so what are we left with? Well, if Michael were just some bloke walking down the street, we would have nothing. But what we're left with is this incredible, unbelievable body of recorded music and this incredible, unbelievable body of videos and even the books that he wrote and all of these different things. And it's like if we can't find meaning and connection in that, and we're looking for meaning and connection in acquiring something else, then it sort of leaves us with questions we have to ask ourselves. And like there is a real humility to the fact that it's like, no, everything is finite. Everything. And one day I will be gone, and what will remain of me is the tens of thousands of images that I've created, hopefully one or two of them worth of crap. And and recordings like this and recordings like you know the all the of the podcasts and things like that I've done. And if somebody's got nothing but time on their hands and wants to listen to them, then it's a way of connecting to who I was,
Yeah,
but I won't be here anymore.
absolutely. You make a great point, and just to build on what you've said, I think you can't get closer to the person than the lyrics they put on the paper, the poetry that they wrote down, the thoughts and the feelings that they shared with the world. You can't get closer than that.
Hmm.
And I think there is an element of, using AI to create Michael singing songs or whatever that probably makes fans feel, I don't know, like it's current, but you will
Yeah.
never, I don't think you'll ever gain closeness through things that are artificial. You gain closeness through the work that he shared, the thoughts that he shared, the feelings that he shared.
Do you think it could be a link to the way in which we view artists who are no longer here? Because, for example, well, for all of us, Michael lived in our lifetime. And what I find quite sad now is that pretty much anybody under the age of 17 is never going to have had Michael in their lifetime. And additionally, on varying scales, we can say that we have had, Steve, more than both of us, have had close proximity to Michael directly.
Mhm.
So, with that in mind, could it be a case of like for us, because we've had the benefit of having Michael and having those releases and having it first time around, we can treasure that knowing that we had it when he was here to give it to us. For a new fan, as I said before, that there's kind of nothing new. And does it mean that by doing this, it gives them something to excited that's new to feel a part of, even if it's not genuine, it's still new. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And it is funny because I was just thinking about Shakespeare and how long has William Shakespeare been gone? And I just watched the other day a clip with Sir Ian McKellen doing. It was on a chat show, and he was doing a monologue from a Shakespeare play, and it was just so immediate and so relevant and so and beautiful and all of that. And I think that, and this might be counter to what my actual position is, but I think that it's a that Michael's work, I believe Michael's work will be around if humanity survives, that Michael's work will be here for long after all of us are gone, and the thing is at that point it'll be interpretations, it'll be people interpreting what did he mean by that? What is he saying with that? What is this? And there will be scholars and there will be people that will study it. I want them to be studying the real thing. I want them to be studying the authentic article instead of something that is a facsimile.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point, and I going back to what you said, Piz, I actually feel I can sympathise on two levels here. So I was 10 when Michael died,
Mm.
so I was very young, and I don't remember a lot of, like, I don't remember when any albums came out. I don't remember when work was new. It was just part of my life growing up. So I understand that there are probably fans that are even younger than me who are in the TikTok generation and they want everything immediately now and everything's got to be new and stuff. And I understand that perspective because that's the era that they've grown up in. What I personally find, and I'm going to go on what you said, Steve, about interpretation, is when I was 10, I liked They Don't Care About Us because I liked the way it sounded. Now that I'm 27, I understand what he meant in his lyrics and the things that he was saying. And I think a massive part of growing up with Michael's music is that you then experience things in your life that make you relate in a different way and you can
Yeah.
interpret music in a different way. And to me, that's what's new and exciting, not really AI creating an image or something like I understand on a different level now that I'm older. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
I was gonna, when you said, I liked They Don't Care because of the way it sounded and then I understood the lyrics. I was about to say, yeah, I felt the same about In the Closet because I didn't understand what he was singing about and
Yeah.
now I do. But then when you said, you might relate to it in a personal way, I was like, oh, bloody hell, we're
Oh,
going there.
can't
So
say
I was going to
that.
drop my point. So with that in mind, is the answer then that the people is to kind of counter AI and a way that we can counter AI, is it for the people with the assets? Steve, I'm looking at you with this, but also the estate as well. Is it for the people with the assets then to do more with them to feed the beast and feed the hunger to prevent people creating their own things? Is that a solution?
Is that for me? Is that
Oh,
my?
well, I'm throwing it out. So
Well, I think that I think that it's a partnership. I think that I mean I can't imagine offering up more available as far as both my time and my stories and the images that I make available, and things like that than I already have. I actually worry about I'm worried about people just getting like, oh, there's Steve again. Bloody hell. We're tired of him and listening to him, same tired old stories. And I do genuinely worry about that. But um, I also think that, and I think that the fans have to actually have a conversation with themselves about what are their actual ethics. And the thing is that I don't expect everybody to integrate my exact ethical standards into themselves. I just want them to have thought about it. I think that the immediacy that Charlotte was talking about of, "Lo, I want it now." Well, sometimes having it now isn't really a good thing, because you don't even understand what it is that you're getting. You don't understand what you're getting a hold of. And I sort of feel like every answer that I give is sort of like these weird esoteric sort of philosophical things, but that's kind of what you get with me, and I apologize.
But it is understanding, though, the depths of the conversation. You mentioned partnership, and I think what I find interesting is with Michael's view on himself, and Michael's view on his appearance, and Michael's view on how he was perceived by the world. And this is where I sort of bring photography back into the mix, that we all know it's not a secret that Michael was very self-conscious and wanted his imagery to be seen in a very, very specific way. We know about lighting, that he had endless situations where lighting took forever to set up because he wanted to be lit the way he wanted to be lit. With makeup, because of his vitiligo, he wanted to appear the way that was right for him with the makeup they were using. So all of these elements he really fine-tuned each time he appeared in an image, how that was going to be.
Mhm.
And I would say that you mentioned partnership. It's kind of like he did his part by saying, this is what I want. This is how I want the world to see me. And I don't want them to see me like this. I want them to see me like this. I don't want to be lit like this because I want to be lit like this. And when he selects images and said, right, these are the five I want people to see, that's because that's he's putting himself out into the world in that way. So when people create images with AI, an alternative to a shoot that exists, it's like, well, actually, that goes against his wishes because he was very specific about how his hair might look, about how he was lit, about how his makeup was done. So you are actually taking away his right to choose how he presented himself to the world.
Oh, and it's fascinating because I remember, like, during downtimes, especially when we were shooting Scream, because it was such a long video, I would have my assistant go and pick up the film from the lab, and especially the black and whites, they'd be on 8.5 by 11 contact sheets, and I'd like, Michael, do you have a minute? Sure. And he would go through and he would look and just look at a whole sheet, circle one, next sheet, next sheet, next sheet, circle one, and I didn't have that. We weren't afforded the time to be able to discuss, what do you see there? Because I like the one prior to it, or the one after it, or the one on the sheet that you didn't pick any, or whatever. And but it was fascinating for me to see somebody who was so confident in his own aesthetic, that he wouldn't like study the image. It was just like that, and circle it. And and it just was one of the things that I wish that I had had more time with him.
Mhm.
That's one of my sadnesses, is that there are so many things, especially as I've grown and matured, there are so many things that I would love to have talked to him about in depth, you know, but I'm limited to the little bit of time that I got to spend with him one on one. Um, but what you're saying, Pez, is just a great point, as far as he knew exactly how he wanted to put himself out into the world. So,
There's a bigger question over where do we see this going in the future? Because if you have a fan event in 10 years' time and none of the images of Michael in the public domain are real images, then who are you interviewing? Who are you getting the source material from
Yeah.
about how Michael felt, how what Michael said, how Michael sounded? You know, in some cases, people like to know what he smelled like. How do you get those real world experiences of who Michael was if suddenly everything is replaced by something that he wasn't?
Hmm.
And
Well,
I think that's
and
a
then there's the thing that I talked about before, the humility of the fact that someday all of us will be gone. You know, my in a few days, 2, 3 days from now, one of my oldest friends in the world, his father's turning 100, and he's a World War II vet, and there will be a day when the last World War II vet has passed, and that generation will have moved on, and just like that, and I do not compare myself to a World War II military veteran,
Mhm.
but it's like there will come a day when every single human being that had direct contact with Michael will be passed from this planet.
Yeah.
And there's a profound humility in that it's like, wow, we have to look at what these assets are while we have them,
Mhm.
and curate them. There's a lot to be said for curation. When you go to a museum, when you go to a gallery, you see imagery, and you see somebody who's been really, really trained, and who has an aesthetic that they are selecting. No, I like this image at that height on the wall, because that's the way that it's going to be well received by the people that I know to be my audience. And so, gosh, I just got off on a tangent.
no,
No,
but
it's
yeah,
okay.
I
You're right. You're right.
liked the point about curation, and I guess that leads into the question: whose job is it to protect what's there and to protect the assets? Is there someone that's more responsible than somebody else? Is it a collective viewpoint? Because in my opinion, it's more of a collective effort that everybody
Mhm.
needs to do their part. There are some people that need to do their part more than others. There are some people that are paid to do their part, so bloody do it.
Mhm.
But I think also it's about agreeing with AI, it's agreeing about what is acceptable. Because the fundamental fact is AI is not going away,
No, it's
right?
not.
And we have to live with AI. It's going to be in our world. It's only going to get more progressive and it's going to be a part of our everyday life. It's understanding not only what is legally acceptable, but what is humanly acceptable as well.
Mhm.
And that's kind of a collective that we, particularly with Michael as a community, need to agree.
Mhm.
Because I see there's a prominent French influencer that keeps creating alternative photos of Michael from a shoot, and he posts them on his Instagram, and all the comments are like, "This is amazing! Wow! Oh my God, it looks so realistic!" And he just puts hashtag AI in the caption, and I see that, and I'm like, but. Is it though? Because that's not really him. But then when the estate put out a fake song, everyone's like, "How dare you? You shouldn't use a vocal that's not him." It's like, yeah, but that image isn't him either, and
Yeah.
everybody's praising it. So whilst I agree we should fight any fake songs, why do we praise fake images? So I think there is kind of
I
a
don't.
collective
Mhm.
community approach that isn't being had, or a collective understanding of what is being had. As I said, equally, I think it also starts from the top because I think, and again, I'm not, I'm not opening this up for estate bashing, but I think you guys are paid to protect the brand and the assets and the legacy. That's literally the definition of the estate, to protect and in some terms monetize those assets. So if you aren't doing it and you're going to be lazy and you're going to AI music videos to hideous quality and you're going to post fake images of a woman sat in a tree saying it's
Mhm.
Michael and you're going to put out fake songs, how can you expect Michael's fans to go, well, we're not going to do that
Yeah.
when they're okay, when they're doing it? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I do think
Mhm.
there's more partnership needed, and there's also more responsibility and accountability that needs to be had on all sides.
Yeah. I agree what you're saying about it has to start probably from the top, because if people were frightened to post mock-up images because there was going to be some sort of charge or penalty for doing that, then that could potentially prevent this. I don't know to which extent. But then a whole other element comes into it and says, okay, so right now, for example, people post these on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, which is what's it called now?
X.
X. No one calls it that. If people post these images on there, then you could start arguing, well, it's these companies that need to enforce this.
Yeah, and I think I've said this for the longest time before AI came up, particularly where photos are concerned. Social media platforms actively encourage you to upload.
Yeah.
Upload. That's all they want you to do. You know, the model of the like society's model shifted from an
Well, and then
ownership model.
they also give you the filter tools to change
Yep.
reality and so on and so forth. I
Exactly.
think, but to answer your previous question though, I think that it's a collaborative thing, and
Mhm.
I think that it's get two just staying within the fan communities, get two fans to agree to what's the best song. Get two fans to agree to which was the best album, which was the best tour, which was the best music video, etc. Um,
But
we
don't you think they're just things that like, that's an objective conversation that's different to right and wrong, right? I
well,
mean, you would be wrong if you said that certain
here it
videos
comes.
like you would be wrong if you said History Tour was better than Dangerous Tour. I mean, because we're talking in facts. But equally, you have the option to say like, that's personal taste. There's a difference between personal taste and right and wrong on
Right,
things like
but I guess
yeah.
that what I'm talking about is in the broader community. There are always going to be quarrels. There's always going to
Mhm.
be this is what my position is, and Bob has this position, and we don't see eye to eye. But then we can look at what the greater what the there's a an actor in the US, a guy named Will Wheaton. He played Wesley Crusher on Star Trek: The Next Generation, and he's really big in the gaming community. And the first rule of his rules of gaming community is rule number one: don't be a dick. And it's like it's almost like the Hippocratic Oath, first do no harm. If we can say, okay, we're not going to always agree on what is the exact thing, but if we can start with the idea of, well, I just don't want to be an asshole here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on your podcast or
You
not.
Oh, go
absolutely
for
are.
I've been biting my tongue throughout this whole time.
I think Shara
Um,
and I have been pretty tame this time.
I always my dad watches and he screams at me for my language on this podcast.
but it's like if we can just understand that, okay, we're not going to come to like some Buddha place of agreement
Yeah.
on everything, but it's like first, if we start off by not being a jerk to one another, and then we have well-reasoned discussions about what we want to do. People are going to do exactly what they want to do anyway. We could have this discussion for the next 19 hours, and at the end of it, somebody is still going to put out AI slop.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. And I don't want to, that doesn't mean that I should just give up on having an opinion on it. I'm going to
Yeah.
have an,
Yeah.
you know,
I think what's interesting as well with when we talk about accountability and who is responsible for protecting this and how do we prevent it is Steve, if you put out a section of AI images and said, "Well, I never got to shoot Michael like this. Here's how it could have looked." I genuinely think you'd be dragged over the
Yeah.
coals by
well,
the fans for being like, "How dare you? Michael wouldn't like this. Michael wouldn't want you doing this." But the fans do it and then say, well, isn't this great? And I
Yeah.
think there's such a level of hypocrisy there as well that the two just aren't matching up.
yeah, that's a good point. I guess note to self, work on that. No, the thing is that I don't want to, and a lot of it is because I've spent a lot of time thinking about what is the responsibility that I have with this body of work,
Mm,
and that is it's if you go into my office, there are like books after books after books of pages of slides and negatives, and it's the sum total of my work, and then the digital work that I've done, it's on hard drive after hard drive after hard drive, backed up and double redundancy and stuff like that. And it's a tremendous amount of work, but it's like this particular segment of it, I have a real responsibility of how I curate that, and then what, and I do have a like kind of a tentative plan for what should be done with it when I'm gone, and all of that. But it's something that I really need to dig into the details of, because because there's a responsibility for it, and I think that I think that one of the arrogant things that human beings do is that we just think we're going to be here forever, and we don't think about, oh gee, does, you know obviously not every image that I shoot is something that anybody's going to give a crap about in, 5 minutes after I'm gone. But there are some things that I've shot that I do have sort of a moral responsibility to make sure that they're curated, to repeat what I'd said before.
mhm. Going forward and moving forward with AI, my concern is right now, a lot of people will say, oh, well, it's okay because when you put images online, you can label them as AI. You can label that they have that. Who knows in the future what technology will exist or come into play that then means that that is null and void. If you are on, even in books, if things become printed, images, AI images become printed, and it's not labeled in that book that it's AI, going forward in our future, these labels become non-existent. There is that covers a very, very, very small part of the problem. Going forward, as we've said, it's going to be part of our daily life at some stage. And a lot of this participation is actually going to be involuntary. Not everyone who goes and views the latest movie will know that it's been enhanced in some ways with AI, or listens to music. And they may not know, just how much of our daily life AI will be integrated into. And going into this in the future, there is a semblance of a lot of kind of the general public may not have much control over that, and that's fine. I think that the hypocrisy, and I'm part of it, is definitely food for thought.
One of the things in my current experience, I'm driving a lot on very, very narrow roads where sometimes a car is coming at you, and one person has to decide to give way to allow the other person to pass. And I've not
Mm-hmm.
seen any fistfights over that. I haven't seen anybody pull a gun on anyone over that. I'm sure maybe it has happened, but it's like, I think that we I think that we forget that for the most part we do get along.
Mm.
We do live in a society, and everything seems to work, and it's not, for the most part, not chaos and stuff like that. And so it's like I have hope for us humans, that we can sort things out, and be good and decent to each other, and follow the first rule of gaming, according to Will Wheaton. you know um but I also am really idealistic. I could be wrong. Maybe it's all going to go to shit and we'll be extinct in 10 years.
Well, if the news over the last few days is anything to go by, then yeah, don't count your
Right,
chickens because
that's what prompted that
so we're doing this currently, and someone's going to be like, "AI, who gives a shit? Look at where we are now." Um, I think as kind of a, I think based on what you said about focusing on sort of kindness, and you've spoken about human interaction, is that it's I hope that we are always starting from a place that nobody in this has bad intent.
Mhm.
And that comes from the fans, but that also comes from, for example, your decision not to release certain things or to give things away. No one is approaching this with bad intent. And if we all work together and have a collective understanding or try to understand each other, we'll get more ultimately out of it. And again, I know that's maybe you're rubbing off on me, Steve, but but I'm sort of saying, like, it's like what I mentioned earlier about, well, how do we, if the community piss you off and say, right, we're all just going to use Steve's images and create AI and all the rest of it, you're going to be like, well, I'm not going to tell my story. I'm not going to share my time. I'm not going to get
Mm.
involved with the Michael fans anymore. And there have been collaborators of Michael's that have been burned in various scenarios and have no longer engaged with the community. And that's a loss to us as a Michael Jackson community because we lose a piece of the puzzle, we lose a piece of the story. So, my kind of hope for this going forward is that everybody is kind of starting with no bad intention. If someone then goes, well, I'm going to do it and I don't give a shit, well, then you're an arse. And that's now we're in bad territory. But I think as long as we kind of go into it with that understanding, and if someone says, look, this is my work, please don't do that, it's like, okay, I respect that. I won't do
Yeah.
it. Or even if they was to say, can you tell me why I can't? It shouldn't be your job to have to continually explain it, but at least it shows that they're open to understanding why they may
Mm.
have done wrong and not just kind of digging their heels in. So I think if we can't kind of come to a solution legally or with this or with that, we can at least start from a place of having a conversation and of understanding each other's
Yeah.
position and trying to navigate our way through that for a happy, healthy Michael Jackson community.
And
That's a
through that,
lovely
that is how
wish.
the world will be healed. So,
There you go. Perfect.
Well, thank you so much for watching, and thank you to our fabulous guest, Steven Whitsitt. It's been great to have you on, Steve. And please do let us know all your opinions in the comments. Give us a like and subscribe. Thank you very much.
We'll see you next
Bye.
time. Bye.
cheers.
Well, that was great.
That was, yeah. I think we got quite
It
deep.
was very lively.